The black sea of space stretched far and wide. The stars looked small and cold. They blinked softly, far beyond the reach of human hands. Out here, past the orbit of Neptune, there was nothing but empty space. Or so the galaxy believed. But hidden deep in the Kuiper Belt, among the frozen rocks and drifting ice, something waited in silence. The Forge Fleet. It was the greatest secret Earth had ever kept. Hundreds of ships floated in the dark. Warships, heavy cruisers, carriers, all built in secret, away from the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council. Each ship was black, designed to blend into the emptiness around them. They had no running lights, no signals, no noise. They were ghosts in the void. Standing on the command deck of the Horizon 1, the fleet's flagship, James Carter watched the ships on the display screen. He stood tall, his face serious. His dark uniform was plain, marked only by a small silver badge on his chest, a symbol of Earth, a blue sphere with a single star above it. James was 36 years old, born in New London. He had spent his life training for this moment. His jaw was sharp, his hair cut short, and his eyes carried the weight of responsibility. He knew what this fleet meant. It was not built for conquest. It was not built for glory. It was built for one reason only: to defend Earth. James turned to his crew. Officers stood at their stations, quiet and focused. Lieutenant Vega, his second-in-command, nodded to him. "Fleet systems check complete," Vega reported. "All ships standing by." James nodded. "Keep them ready." He walked toward the viewing window. Out there, beyond the black, the Galactic Council ruled. Hundreds of alien species had come together to form one great power. They called themselves the Guardians of Peace. But Earth knew the truth. 200 years ago, Earth had reached the stars. Humans had stepped out into the galaxy, looking for allies, for knowledge, for a place among the stars. But the Council had rejected them. They called Earth a death world, a planet too harsh, too violent, too dangerous. They feared Earth's strong bodies, fast reflexes, and the survival instincts that came from growing up on a world full of storms, wild animals, and deadly diseases. The Council had banned Earth from joining. No trade, no contact, no voice. But Earth had not given up. In secret, they had built the Forge Fleet. In hidden shipyards on the dark side of the moon, in deep tunnels under Mars, in frozen caves on Pluto, they had worked for generations, building the fleet piece by piece, knowing that one day, the Council might come for them. And now, that day had come. A soft beep broke the silence. Communications Officer Reyna turned in her chair. "Commander Carter," she said. "Incoming message from Earth Command." "Put on," James ordered. The screen flickered to life. The face of Admiral Cross, leader of Earth's Defense Command, appeared. His face was pale, his expression grave. "Commander Carter," Cross began. "The Galactic Council knows. Our spies confirmed it. They found the Forge Fleet." James felt his chest tighten. "They've sent a message," Cross continued. "A demand for Earth's full surrender. They say we have violated the ban. They say if we do not surrender, they will come with force." The command deck grew cold and quiet. James looked at his crew. He saw fear in their eyes, but also something else, strength. "What are Earth's orders?" James asked. Cross sighed. "Earth's leaders are divided. Some wish to surrender. Some wish to fight. The final choice falls to you, Commander. The fleet was built to defend Earth. But war will cost us dearly. We stand ready for your decision." The screen went dark. James turned back to the window, looking out at the black sea of ships. He had trained for this moment all his life. But now that it was here, the weight of it pressed hard on his heart. He thought of Earth, the mountains, the oceans, the people who had no idea that their future hung on the edge of war. He could not let fear decide. Earth had already been kept in the dark too long. It was time to stand. He turned back to his crew. "Send a message to Earth Command," he said, his voice firm. Reyna nodded. "What should I tell them?" James stood tall, his eyes clear. "Tell them Earth doesn't need permission to exist. We don't need permission to live free." He paused, looking at every face on the bridge. "We will stand." The crew nodded in silent agreement. No one spoke. No one argued, because deep down they all knew the time had come. James walked to the center of the bridge. He placed his hand on the command console. Alert the fleet, he ordered. Full battle readiness. The lights dimmed. Red warning lights flashed softly around the ship. The quiet hum of engines began to rise. James took a deep breath. The silence of the dark had been broken. The days that followed felt heavier than stone. James Carter knew every second counted. He spent long hours on the bridge of Horizon 1, checking the status of the fleet again and again. Ships stood ready, weapons loaded, engines charged. Yet, the real battle had not started, not yet. The Council was on the move, and James knew they would not wait long. In the command center, Lieutenant Vega watched the long-range scanners. Nothing yet, Vega reported softly. James nodded. He stood with his hands behind his back, staring at the display screens. Dozens of sensor drones were spread through the outer system, watching for any sign of the Galactic Council's fleet. He didn't have to wait much longer. "Commander," Reyna, the communications officer, called out. "Incoming transmission. Direct channel. High priority." James turned. His throat felt dry. "From Earth Command?" he asked. Reyna shook her head slowly. "No, sir. From the Galactic Council." The command deck went silent. Every officer turned toward James, waiting for his order. James took a deep breath. He nodded. "Put it through." The main screen flickered. A cold, silver face filled the screen. High Chancellor Varric, leader of the Zenari, ruler of the Galactic Council. The alien's skin shimmered like steel. His dark eyes showed no emotion. His long, sharp features made him look more like a blade than a living being. James felt the air on the bridge grow tight. "Commander James Carter," Varric said, his voice deep and smooth. "I am High Chancellor Varric of the Galactic Council. You stand accused of breaking the Great Ban placed on Earth 2 centuries ago. You have built warships in secret. You have armed your world without permission. These are crimes against the peace of the galaxy." James stood tall. He said nothing. He let Varric speak. "You have one choice," Varric continued. "You will surrender your fleet. You will disarm. You will submit to council judgment. If you refuse, we will bring force upon your world. Earth will not survive." The words echoed in the silent bridge. James stepped forward. He kept his voice calm and steady. "You call Earth a danger," James said. "You call us criminals. But Earth is not your enemy. We asked for peace long ago. You rejected us. You locked us out. You labeled us a death world because you feared us." Varric's cold face did not move. James narrowed his eyes. "We built this fleet to defend our home, not to start a war. But we will not bow. Earth does not belong to the Council. It never did." The High Chancellor leaned slightly forward. "You refuse to surrender?" Varric asked. James nodded without fear. "We refuse to kneel." Varric stared for a long moment. Then his cold smile appeared. "Very well," Varric said. "We come for you now." The screen went dark. The command deck stayed frozen in silence for several seconds. No one moved. No one spoke. James turned to his crew. His voice broke the silence like a hammer on stone. "Sound full alert," James ordered. "Prepare the fleet for contact." Vega nodded. "Yes, Commander." The deck lights dimmed again. Red warning lights flashed. Alarms hummed in the background. Crews moved fast across the ship, checking weapons, engines, and shields. James watched the bridge come alive like a beating heart. But he knew they needed more than readiness. They needed hope. He turned to Reyna. "Open a channel to the fleet." The fleet-wide channel clicked on. Every crew member across hundreds of ships could hear his voice now. "This is Commander James Carter," he began. His voice was clear and steady. "You all know what's coming. You've trained for this. You've worked in the dark for years, maybe your whole lives, for this moment." He paused to let the words settle. "The Council thinks we'll surrender. They think Earth will bow again. But they are wrong." He looked at the stars outside the window, then back at his crew. "We are the children of Earth. A world of storms. A world of fire and ice. A world that shaped us to survive anything." His voice grew stronger. "We do not ask for permission to exist. We do not ask for permission to stand. We are not a danger to the galaxy. We are a part of it, and we will claim our place. Not with fear, not with violence, but with courage." His hand clenched into a fist. "Hold the line. Protect our home. Fight not just for Earth, but for our future." The fleet channel closed. The crew stood taller. The fear in their eyes faded, replaced by something stronger, determination. Vega turned to him. "They'll be here soon," she said softly. James nodded. "Let them come." Far out in space, the sensors began to flash red. The Council fleet had entered the system. The time for waiting was over. For 2 days, the Forge fleet held position in the dark. No one slept much. No one spoke without reason. Every eye watched the sensors. Every mind waited for the first move. And then the alarms began. Lieutenant Vega stood by the sensor panel, eyes sharp. "Commander," she said, voice tense. "Council fleet has entered the outer system. Estimated 50 ships. 2 flagships. Multiple war cruisers and carriers." James Carter walked to the display screen. Bright red markers lit up the outer edges of the solar system. The enemy had arrived. They were moving slow but steady, like a rising wave ready to crash. "How long until they reach us?" James asked. Vega checked again. 36 hours at current speed. James nodded. His face stayed calm, but inside his mind raced. The Council had brought everything they had. They wanted to show strength. They wanted to scare Earth into surrender. But James had already made his choice. "Fleet status?" he asked. "All ships ready for combat," Vega replied. "Good." James turned to Reyna. "Open a secure channel. I want to speak to Varric again." A moment later, the screen lit up. Once again, the face of High Chancellor Varric appeared. He looked the same, cold, sharp, and still. "Commander Carter," Varric said, "I give you one last chance. Surrender your fleet. Open your world. Or face the judgment of the Council." James stood straight. He did not blink. "There is nothing to surrender," James replied. "Earth stands free." Varric leaned slightly forward, his dark eyes narrowing. "Do not mistake hope for strength, Commander. You face the full force of the Council. You cannot win." James took a step closer to the screen. "Maybe not," he said quietly, "but we will not kneel." For the first time, Varric's face showed something new. Not anger, not fear, but curiosity. "You are brave," Varric said softly, "but bravery is not enough." James gave a cold smile. "Then come and prove it." The screen went dark again. James turned to his crew. "Prepare for face-to-face contact," he ordered. Vega blinked in surprise. "Sir." James nodded. "If they want to fight, let them see who they're fighting." Hours later, Horizon 1 drifted forward, leaving the cover of the asteroid field. Behind it, the Forge fleet moved into view. Hundreds of dark ships lit up for the first time in years. Their engines burned softly. Their hulls gleamed under distant starlight. They faced the Council fleet across open space. The 2 armadas hung in the dark like giants staring across a battlefield. James stood at the front of the bridge, watching the enemy fleet on the screen. He could feel the weight of this moment. This was no longer a secret war. This was open defiance. The Council now knew Earth was not afraid. Reyna turned in her seat. "New transmission, sir. Direct link. They're requesting visual contact." James nodded. "Put it through." The screen showed High Chancellor Varric once again. But this time, other Council leaders stood behind him. Different alien faces. Different species. All silent. All watching. Varric spoke first. "Commander Carter, you bring your fleet into the open. Bold but foolish." James crossed his arms. "You see us now, Chancellor. You see the truth. We are not a myth. We are not shadows. We are human." Varric glanced at the leaders behind him, then back at James. "You fight for a planet the Council named Deathworld. You fight for a people who were banned for a reason. You cannot change what you are." James stepped closer. "You are right," he said calmly. "We are Deathworlders. We are survivors. But that is not a curse. It is our strength." The Council leaders began to whisper among themselves. James could tell they were unsure. Varric, however, remained still. "You have chosen war," Varric said at last. "No, James replied. You have." The screen went dark one final time. James turned to Vega. "Begin fleet-wide combat deployment. Lock weapons. Ready shields." Vega saluted and gave the order. Across the fleet, crews rushed to stations. Missile tubes opened. Laser batteries came online. Shield generators began to hum. Engines flared brighter. James looked out the window one last time. The Council fleet started to move toward them, weapons armed. The first battle was about to begin. James clenched his fists. "Hold the line," he whispered to himself. "For Earth. For all of us." The silence before the first shot felt heavier than the ships themselves. Both fleets stood ready in the void, weapons charged, shields raised, and every soul waiting for the moment when calm would shatter. James Carter stood on the bridge of Horizon 1, staring at the enemy fleet now less than 1,000,000 kilometers away. On the screen, dozens of red markers glowed, showing Council ships moving slowly into attack position. They were organized, disciplined, and confident. Lieutenant Vega spoke softly behind him. "They've completed formation. Awaiting orders, sir." James didn't look back. "Let them fire first," he said. "We'll show the galaxy who draws blood." The Forge fleet floated in a V-shaped line across the stars. Human ships, though smaller, were dense and armed with precision. Built with survival in mind, they could take damage and strike hard. Every weapon system was primed. Every crew member waited at battle stations. Earth's children were ready. Then the Council fired. The first blast came from a Zenari heavy cruiser, a blue-white beam of plasma that cut through the dark like lightning. It missed Horizon 1 by several thousand kilometers, but sent a message. This was war. James didn't flinch. Return fire. All frontline vessels, fire at will. Space lit up like a storm. Dozens of beams and missiles screamed across the void. Earth's ships unleashed their weapons with controlled fury. Red and orange pulses darted between stars. Council ships responded with heavy energy cannons, brighter and more destructive. Horizon 1 shook as a near miss rocked their shields. Shields holding at 82%, Vega reported. "Focus fire on their left flank," James ordered. "We can't match their numbers, but we can break their lines." On his command, 3 human destroyers, Valiant, Hammerfall, and Nova Wing, peeled off and moved swiftly toward the enemy's left side. They fired in quick, brutal bursts. The Council ships weren't used to such fast attacks. One enemy frigate took a direct hit to its core. It burst into flame, then broke apart. A cheer rose on the Horizon 1's bridge. "One down," Vegas said, smiling faintly. James didn't smile. "Don't celebrate yet. They'll answer hard." And they did. The Council's main flagship, a massive silver vessel known as Judicator Prime, moved forward. Its central cannon glowed bright. Then it fired a beam wide enough to melt a mountain. One of Earth's mid-sized cruisers, ironclad, took the hit directly. The ship split in two. The light faded. The crew was gone. Reyna covered her mouth. The bridge fell silent again. No words could fill that space. James closed his eyes for one breath. Then he opened them and stepped forward. "Move forward," he said. "Don't let them break the line." The battle grew worse by the minute. Earth's ships danced in tight formations, trying to use speed and timing to make up for size. The Council ships pushed with brutal force. The sky filled with fire. James watched 3 more ships from his fleet take heavy damage. He winced at each hit, but never let his voice shake. "Redirect Nova Wing," he said calmly. "They can flank the second cruiser. Send Valiant to cover their escape route." Vega worked fast. "Confirmed, sir." Despite their losses, Earth's fleet held strong. Their tactics were sharp. Every movement was based on years of secret planning. Every shot counted, and slowly, bit by bit, they pushed back. The Council wasn't used to this kind of resistance. For centuries, no world had dared challenge their authority. They expected Earth to crack. But Earth was a death world, and Deathworlders don't break easy. After 2 hours of nonstop fighting, the first wave began to slow. Council ships pulled back slightly, adjusting formation. A sign they were rethinking strategy. James saw it. "We've hit them hard enough to make them blink," he said. "Now we talk." Reyna looked at him surprised. "You want to open communication?" "Yes," he said. "Let Varric hear what defeat sounds like." Minutes later, Varric appeared again on the main screen. His smooth face still looked calm, but his eyes were sharp now, more focused. "You've caused damage," he said. "But your ships are burning. Your people are dying. Why continue?" James stared at him, eyes hard. "Because we'd rather die free than live beneath your boots." Varric narrowed his eyes. "You are making a mistake." "No," James replied. "You are. You thought we would kneel. You thought we were weak, but you were wrong. Earth is not just strong, it's united. Behind him, the crew stood taller. Proud, defiant. James stepped closer to the screen. Withdraw now, and this ends. Or keep fighting, and learn why you should never threaten a death world. The screen went dark. Vega turned to James. Do you think he'll back down? James shook his head. No, not yet. But now he knows we won't fall easily. He walked to the front window, staring out at the stars now filled with fire and wreckage. They came to break us, he said quietly. Instead, they woke us up. The first battle was not the end. It was only the beginning. And Earth was just getting started. The Forge fleet floated in the dark, wounded but still standing. Pieces of broken ships drifted between the two armadas. Fires flickered in the distance, glowing faintly like dying stars. James Carter stood on the bridge of Horizon 1, his fists clenched behind his back. His eyes stayed locked on the enemy fleet. The battle had paused, but only for a moment. Both sides were repositioning, preparing for the next wave. James knew this fight was far from over. Commander, Lieutenant Vega called softly, looking up from the sensor screen. Council ships are pulling back to regroup. They've lost 5, maybe 6 vessels, but they still outnumber us nearly 2-1. James nodded slowly. That much was clear. We hurt them, he said, but not enough to make them leave. Reyna turned from the communications panel. No new messages from Varek, sir. James walked to the center of the bridge, thinking carefully. He had expected Varek to open another channel, to push for surrender again. But the silence was louder than words. Varek was planning something bigger, something final. James knew they had to strike first. Bring up the fleet status map, James ordered. The screen filled with ship markers, showing the current positions of both fleets. James studied the patterns, looking for weakness. Here, he pointed. The enemy's center is tight, but their right flank is thin. They've spread their carriers wide to protect them. If we hit there hard and fast, we might break their line. Vega frowned, but that puts us in range of their heavy guns. James nodded. It's risky, but if we break that flank, we force them to pull back. Vega leaned closer to the screen. If we fail, we'll lose half the fleet. James didn't hesitate. If we do nothing, we lose everything. The bridge fell silent again. The crew understood. This was the moment. Win here or fall here. James turned to Reyna. Open a channel to the fleet. When the fleet channel opened, James spoke calmly, but with fire in his voice. This is Commander Carter, he began. We've hurt them. We've made them fear us. But they still believe they can crush us. They are wrong. He walked slowly across the bridge, letting his words carry. This next attack is our chance to turn the tide. It won't be easy. Some of us won't make it home. But if we strike hard enough, we'll show the galaxy that Earth will never be broken. He paused and looked toward the stars. This is our stand. All ships, prepare for coordinated attack on the enemy's right flank. We hit them fast. We hit them together. He clenched his fists. For Earth. For our future. For all of us. The fleet moved. Valiant, Nova Wing, and Hammerfall led the charge. Engines flared as they broke formation and raced toward the enemy's weak side. Behind them, the rest of the Forge fleet followed in tight waves, moving as one body. James stood at the front of the bridge, eyes locked on the battle unfolding ahead. The enemy noticed the move almost too late. The Council's right flank scrambled to adjust, but Earth's ships hit first. Missiles streaked through the dark. Laser fire lit up the sky. Earth's ships tore into the thin enemy line, ripping through smaller frigates and cutting off the larger cruisers from their carriers. Hammerfall fired a full volley of plasma torpedoes, striking a Council warship dead center. The ship exploded in a bright flash, sending shockwaves through the enemy ranks. Vega's voice rang out on the bridge. We've broken their flank. James nodded. Push them. Don't let them regroup. The Council tried to close the gap, but Earth's ships moved faster than expected. The human fleet pressed deeper, forcing the enemy back toward their carriers. Council ships fired wildly, trying to hold the line, but Earth's ships kept hitting them from all sides. The enemy's perfect formation was falling apart. James saw the moment clearly on the screen. This is it, he whispered. We've got them. Suddenly, Reyna turned sharply. Commander, new signal from Judicator Prime. Varek is hailing us. James nodded. Put him through. The High Chancellor's face appeared again. He looked more tense now. The calm mask he wore before was cracking. You forced us to pull back, Varek said. Impressive. But this fight is not over. James stood tall. It could be. Call off your fleet. Leave this system. Let Earth stand free. Varek's jaw tightened. We will not leave a death world to rise unchecked. James took a slow breath. We never asked to rule. We never wanted control. We only asked for freedom. Varek leaned forward. You asked for peace, but you build weapons in secret. You ask for trust, but you strike without mercy. Why should the Council believe you will stop here? James didn't blink. Because Earth knows what war costs. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in it. Varek stayed silent for a long moment. Then, with cold finality, he spoke. Your words are brave, Commander. But the Council cannot leave this threat unanswered. We will strike again. And this time, you will not survive. The screen went dark. James turned to his crew. He's coming with everything. Vega's voice was tight. What do we do, sir? James looked out at the fleet. They had fought hard. They had broken the enemy's line. But Varek still had enough ships to finish them if he pushed hard enough. There was only one choice left. James clenched his fist tighter. We take the fight to him, he said. We stop his final strike before it begins. Across the fleet, the crews prepared for the final push. The battle was not over yet. The next move would decide everything. The Forge fleet had pushed the enemy back, but James Carter knew the fight wasn't finished. If anything, it was about to get worse. Standing on the bridge of Horizon 1, James watched the enemy fleet reorganize. They were moving again, this time in a tighter, heavier formation. The Council had stopped playing cautious. They were preparing a full strike. Vega leaned forward at the sensor station, worry in her voice. Sir, Judicator Prime is moving to the front. Looks like they're preparing their main cannon again. James nodded slowly. Varek was bringing out the big gun. The main cannon of Judicator Prime had the power to burn a planet's surface. If they let Varek fire it at full strength, Earth wouldn't stand chance. Reyna spoke up next. Sir, I'm getting signals from their lead ships. They're charging all forward weapons. James already knew. The Council was preparing one massive strike to end it all. He stood still for a moment, thinking. His crew waited in tense silence. No one dared to speak until James gave the order. And when he did, it was calm but clear. Bring the fleet forward, James said. Full speed. Vega turned shocked. Sir, if we rush in now, they'll tear us apart. James nodded. Exactly. They expect us to fall back and defend Earth. But we're going to stop them before they reach firing range. Vega's face tensed. Sir, that's suicide. James walked slowly toward the window, looking out at the stars. If that cannon fires, Earth is gone, he said. We have no other choice. He turned to the crew again, raising his voice. Prepare all ships for a direct assault on Judicator Prime. We take out their cannon, or we lose everything. The fleet moved. Horizon 1 led the charge. Behind it, every remaining ship followed, engines burning bright. The Forge fleet surged forward like a wave, cutting through the dark toward the enemy flagship. The Council ships reacted fast. Beams of plasma and heavy fire filled space like a deadly storm. Earth ships took hit after hit. One by one, Valiant, Nova Wing, and Hammerfall fought their way through, shields breaking, armor burning. James stood firm on the bridge, giving clear, sharp orders. Focus all fire on Judicator Prime's cannon. Council ships closed in fast, try to block the attack. But Earth ships pressed on. 2 destroyers sacrificed themselves, crashing into enemy cruisers, clearing a path for Horizon 1. James could see it now, the cannon. It glowed at the front of Judicator Prime, charging up, gathering deadly energy. Seconds felt like hours. Ready the heavy torpedoes, James ordered. Target that cannon. Vega shouted from her station. We're too far. We need to get closer. James clenched his fists. Then we get closer. Horizon 1 pushed forward, taking heavy fire. The ship shook violently as energy blast struck its hull. Warning lights flashed. the bridge filled with smoke and sparks. Reyna cried out. Shields are gone. James grabbed the edge of the console, steadying himself. Keep going. The ship raced toward Judicator Prime. The cannon glowed brighter now, nearly fully charged. Vega turned, fear in her voice. Sir, we're not going to make it. We're too slow. James closed his eyes for a second. He knew what had to be done. He turned to Vega. Prepare for manual detonation of Horizon 1's core. Vega froze. Sir, no. James placed a steady hand on her shoulder. If we fire now, we miss. If we charge the core and ram the cannon directly, we take it out for good. The bridge fell silent again. Everyone knew what that meant. Reyna's voice broke. Sir, that's a suicide run. James nodded. But it will save Earth. He walked to the fleet channel again. This is James Carter, he said, his voice steady but heavy. Prepare for emergency fallback. All ships pull back as soon as we breach the enemy's line. This is our last shot. Vega stepped forward, her voice breaking. James, let me do it. You don't have to. James turned to her, his voice soft but firm. Yes, I do. The ship's crew scrambled to evacuate non-essential stations. James stayed on the bridge with a small team. The core of Horizon 1 began to glow bright red as it charged toward overload. The distance closed fast. Judicator Prime loomed ahead, its cannon glowing like a star ready to burst. James gripped the control panel. This is for Earth, he whispered. At the last second, James locked the ship's course and activated the core overload. He turned to Vega and the others. Get to the escape pods. That's an order. Vega stood frozen for a moment. Then she saluted, tears in her eyes. Yes, sir. She and the crew rushed off the bridge, leaving James alone. The cannon on Judicator Prime reached full charge. It began to fire, but Horizon 1 struck first. The ship slammed directly into the cannon's core, exploding in a massive, blinding light. The blast ripped through Judicator Prime's front section, tearing the massive weapon apart. The explosion echoed across the battlefield. From a safe distance, Vega watched from the escape pod as the wreckage floated in silence. The enemy fleet began to fall apart. Their main weapon was gone. Ships started pulling back, broken and scattered. James Carter had stopped them. He had saved Earth. Vega whispered softly, staring at the wreckage. He did it. The remaining Forge fleet gathered the survivors. They had taken heavy losses. Many ships were gone, but they had won. Reyna spoke over the fleet channel. The Council fleet is retreating. Earth is safe. Vega looked back toward the empty space where Horizon 1 had stood. Rest easy, Commander, she whispered. We'll take it from here. The battle was over. The stars stood still once more. The weapons had gone silent. Wreckage from both fleets drifted through the black sea of space like broken memories. Fires flickered on what was left of the enemy's front line. Judicator Prime, once the might of the Galactic Council, was nothing more than a shattered shell. Earth had survived, but the cost had been high. The Forge fleet, now fewer in number, regrouped near Pluto's orbit. Many ships were gone, many crews lost, but the survivors stood proud. Lieutenant Vega, now in command, stood on the bridge of Starfire, the fleet's second flagship. Her face was tired but steady. She looked out at the battered ships that had answered Earth's call. Behind her, Reyna spoke softly. All enemy ships have retreated beyond sensor range. No new signals detected. Vega nodded. And Earth. Safe, Reyna replied. We did it. Vega let out a long breath. It didn't feel real yet. James Carter was gone. Horizon 1 was gone. But his sacrifice had saved them all. Vega turned to the fleet channel, her voice steady but heavy with emotion. This is Vega, she said. Commander Carter gave everything to stop the Council's final strike. We stand here today because of him, because of all of you. She paused to let the silence settle. We go home now, but this is not the end. The galaxy watched us today. They saw what Earth is made of. We are Deathworlders, yes, but we are more than that. Her voice grew stronger. We are a people who stand. We are a people who fight for freedom. And from this day forward, no one will forget. She closed the channel. The fleet turned slowly toward the inner system. They were going home. 1 week later, the Forge fleet entered Earth's orbit under a quiet, watchful sky. Cities below stopped to watch the ships. People gathered in streets and rooftops, staring up at the sight they had never expected to see. The hidden fleet had become the defenders of Earth, and James Carter had become a legend. In New London, on the steps of Earth's Defense Hall, Vega stood before a large crowd. The leaders of Earth stood behind her. Soldiers, families, workers, all had gathered to hear the truth. Vega raised her voice so all could hear. "We stood alone," she began. "The council came to break us. They called us dangerous. They called us unworthy." She paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. But James Carter showed them who we really are. He showed the galaxy that we do not need permission to exist. The crowd grew silent, hanging on her every word. He gave his life so we could have a future, so Earth could stand, not in fear, but in freedom. The people lowered their heads for a moment of silence. A soft wind passed through the city. Vega looked to the sky. "We will remember, and we will carry his fight forward. Not with hate, not with anger, but with hope." She placed her hand on her chest. "For Earth, for all of us." The crowd repeated the words softly at first, then louder. "For Earth, for all of us." Later that night, Vega stood alone on a high balcony, looking at the stars. She could almost hear James's voice again, calm, steady, unshaken. Reyna stepped up beside her. "What happens now?" Reyna asked. Vega kept her eyes on the stars. "Now we watch the skies. We rebuild. We stand ready." She turned and gave a small smile. "And when the galaxy comes knocking again, they'll know Earth isn't afraid anymore." Far above, the stars blinked quietly. The future was waiting, and this time, Earth would meet it head-on.